The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Kanban for Agile Software Development. And our guest speaker today are Nithya Chelam and Karpagam Balasubramaniam. Nithya Chelam, she is engineering manager, and Karpagam Balasubramaniam, she's a software engineer with eBay Inc. Nithya Chelam is an information technology graduate engineer who has around 10 years of experience in the software industry, working in companies like Oracle and CSC before she joined eBay. She currently works as a technical manager at eBay, managing the CSC C2C selling product, where she helps build product solutions for consumer seller. She is also part of the technical committee in the Grace Hopper Conference for Women, which focuses on diversity and women in technology. Karpagam Balasubramaniam completed MSc Software Engineering from PSG College of Technology, Coimbatore in 2013. Based on research done while in college, she published a paper titled KS Ring Theoretic Approach for Matrix Multiplication in the Proceedings of ACM Digital Library, ACM New York, USA 2011, and ICWET 2011 by presenting it in the International Conference of Emerging Trends in Technology, Jan 2011, Mumbai. She did her 7th and 10th semester internships with eBay Inc., which motivated her to start her career there. She is currently working for the C2C selling team, focusing on consumer selling methods on the site. Her areas of interest including programming languages, networks, and cryptography and responsive design. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speakers. Over to you, Nithya.
Thank you so much. I'm starting with a warm welcome to everyone who's here today, and we hope you will get enough information that you need from this session. So the session we're focusing on today is Kanban, which is another agile methodology for software development. I'm going to start with what exactly is Kanban. So Kanban is a Japanese word wherein Kan means visual and ban means a card or a board. And this concept came actually from the manufacturing industry, where actually from Toyota, where they had a physical card to indicate whenever inventory was needed. They would have a physical card to indicate that they need more inventory had to be procured. And this is what we're trying to follow in software today to see pull things when we need, similar to the manufacturing industry. And Kanban also helps establish an upper limit to the work in progress. That is a quick introduction about Kanban. I'm going into the next slide. So we talk about software development and what happens in development cycles and why should we go for a pull system and not a push system. The manufacturing industry, especially in Kanban, uses a pull system where based on demand, they procure all the inventory and start the process, and they don't have everything ready futuristically thinking of what they need next. So how will this help us in software? That is what we're going to look into. Okay, the first slide talks about usually what happens in software development, right? If you see this slide, it tells us what happens inside an iteration. So usually if you keep on doing everything without setting a limit or or you work in a push system, what happens is development keeps going on and on and on, and even when you're near completion, you will get a new requirement or anything else to continue. And testing, even though it starts early, since development is still going on, testing doesn't complete by the end of the cycle, and in the end there will be a crash, as in testing might not be completed in the given timelines where you have committed to roll out the product. So this is what's been happening. I'm sure a lot of software engineers might have faced this as you're executing projects. So one strategy to overcome the issue of testing cycle not going into a crash mode is use pull versus push. So what is push? As I said, push is, try to do everything you can just in case. So a conventional SDLC systems work on the push mode, where we try to make all sorts of requirements for our whole product. But Agile is in pull mode, both Scrum and Kanban. So we want you to understand the concept of pull before we go more into Kanban. And what it does is, focus on what you need and make what's needed when we need it, so that we can deliver much quicker in an Agile mode. And also, if we need to fail, we'll fail faster. So before we go more into Kanban, I'm just going to start with Scrum. So Scrum is one Agile methodology that's the most popular Agile methodology. And if you know Scrum, Kanban will be much easier to understand. In case you don't know Scrum also, I'm going to walk through what is Scrum first, and then we'll move into Kanban. So coming into Scrum, how does Scrum work? Scrum in a nutshell. So what do Scrum teams do? First of all, they split your organization into small cross-functional self-organizing teams. And after you split the teams, you split your work into small tasks, into concrete deliverables, and sort the list by priority. After you've sorted the list by priority, you start going into iterations. You figure out fixed length iterations, usually 1 to 4 weeks, that will work for you. And you optimize the release plan, and after each iteration you learn and try to correct what's going on. This is how Scrum works. So the idea to deliver in iterations is you deliver smaller pieces faster, and as each iteration goes, you deliver the whole picture. What does Kanban do? Kanban is very simple when related to Scrum. You have to visualize the whole workflow. You don't split it into iterations, but you visualize the whole workflow of the product, of how does the product start and what is the end state of the product. You limit the work in progress. Whatever tasks you have for a given project, you make sure that you don't take a lot at the same time, and you limit what you're working on, and you measure the lead time. What is the lead time? It's the average time to complete one item towards the whole workflow that you've created. And this is how a Kanban workflow will look like, or a Kanban board will look like. So if you see here, the Kanban workflow, it starts with a to-do cycle. And after you have seen all your tasks that are in to-do, all your user stories, you move them to in progress when you're working on them. Once it's done, we can move it to code review, and once code review is done, it moves on to testing and QA completion and then release date. So this is a sample Kanban board. Please note, you can configure your board or your workflow to your flexibility of what your product development requires. So if you see here in the Kanban board, starting from the first column, we have a maximum limit, the minimum limit of 1 and a maximum limit of 6. For the to-do list, for the in progress, we have the minimum limit of 1 and a maximum limit of 3. So this is the concept of at any point of time, there will be not more than 3 tasks that are in progress, and we limit the work in progress. So this is a very simple Kanban board. If you see, the difference between a Scrum board and a Kanban board will be, in the Scrum board, the board will reset after every iteration, but this Kanban board is persistent, and it will stay with us until the product is done, so you can track the whole product holistically. Going into more details about Kanban, Kanban is less prescriptive. So what does that mean? It means there are not a lot of rules. They don't impose that you have to do planning meetings or different iterations like Scrum. So if you see, a lot of prescriptive software development processes like RUP, extreme programming, we have the comparison here. In RUP, they try to do more than 120 plus items at one time, wait for everything to complete before they can do everything else. In Scrum, even though you have iterations, you try to take as much as you can within the iteration and improve on your velocity. So we are limiting the work in progress to some extent in Scrum, but it is not direct. In Kanban, we try to take only the minimum number of tasks at a given point of time, and that is why it is more adaptive in nature and less prescriptive. Okay, what are the foundational principles of Kanban? Start with what you do now. So even if you don't have all the information, whatever information you have, start now. And you have to agree to evolutionary change. So you don't wait for everything to be that. You go with the understanding of what you have now, and as any changes come to the product, you are in agreement that you're okay to take up changes, and you'll be respecting the current roles and responsibilities of a PD and a PM or a QE, but that's not enforced. So that is those are the foundational principles of Kanban. Going into the practices of Kanban, how do you actually operate using Kanban and Agile development? You visualize what you need. You visualize your whole board, your workflow, what are the different to-do list in your product. Limit the work in progress. Don't take more than that maximum limit. Manage your flow, like understand your flow from the to-do, from the start to the end, what each task of your product needs to go through. Make your processes explicit so that everyone understands the life cycle of what each task is going through. Implement feedback loops. Of course, this is always to improve, and in software development, we are always looking to improve. Improve collaboratively, evolve experimentally. So as a team, your whole team understands the Kanban board, and you can work together to see what we can do better in that board. And as you progress development, you can evolve experimentally. What does that mean? Just to give you an example, let's say a work in progress, we start with 2, and we find that some engineers are not occupied. We can increase that to 3, and you can see what you can do better. Limiting working in progress. Why is Kanban asking us to limit the work in progress? It reduces multitasking. By reducing multitasking, you prevent context switching, and you perform tasks sequentially, which yields better, sooner results. You can maximize the throughput. Your focus is maximized. It will enhance teamwork. So you work together as a team. Let's say in one part of your workflow, let's say in the to-do list, there are a lot of tasks that are not moving to the next column. All the team can work together to make sure they get enough information and add it to the to-do list, and make sure that the to-do list moves to the next stage, that is in progress. That is what it means in working together and increasing cross-functionality, where you can help each other role do what they need. The next strategy is work in progress limit. Yeah, how do you limit the work in progress? So you start with some initial hypothetical value. A good start would be the number of engineers you have working in your team. If you have 3 engineers, you can start with 3 to be your initial value. Measure the cycle time. How much time does it take? If I have 3 engineers and start 3 tasks, what is the average time that it takes for all 3 tasks to release? And then you change your work in progress limit to see how you can improve on your cycle time. Again, another strategy of Kanban is estimation is optional. Now, estimation is optional, but there are a lot of cases in software where you have to be able to estimate and give a release time as to when you can complete any new feature. So when can you opt for estimation being optional in Kanban is when you are new to the project and you're not able to estimate it properly, and your estimations don't change the plan. They're not very critical to it at a particular time, so it doesn't matter if you don't estimate and you start working on it. You don't have to measure the velocity of what you're doing, and the team is very experienced that if any task comes in, they know they can do it in 1 or 2 days, so they don't have to re-estimate it every time. And the average cycle time is enough for the customer. They don't have hard deadlines as to when this has to be given. They just want the product to be done. These are the cases where you can opt for, in a Kanban mode, having the estimations as optional. Now that we've seen Kanban in detail and Scrum in a nutshell, let's compare Scrum versus Kanban so that we can understand the differences between them. So I'm starting with the task flow. How does the flow of a Scrum team look and a Kanban team look? So if you said, as I told you earlier, in the Scrum, we operate in sprints. And at the end of every sprint, the board will reset. The tasks we do reset. And that is what is called out in the first diagram. If you see, there's a fixed timeline when sprint 1 is happening, let's say 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, when sprint 2 starts, the Scrum board is resetting. Sprint 3, the Scrum board is resetting again. Let's look at the Kanban board that is below. So we have set our work in progress limit to 3. So at any time, we'll do only 3 tasks. This board is persistent. There's no resetting anywhere. We'll do only 3 tasks. And it doesn't matter what is the size of the task. In Scrum, it has to matter that your task fits into the sprint, and at the end of the sprint, whatever task you do has a considerable output, an output that actually can be seen and can be productionized. But in Kanban, you can have long-running tasks at the same time, running tasks at the same time. The only catch is you have to make sure that you limit your work in progress. Going into similarities of Scrum versus Kanban, both are lean, both are agile methodologies, both use pull scheduling, as we saw the definition of pull earlier. Both limit the work in progress, but Scrum does it indirectly. You try to fit a lot into your iteration, and then you understand your backlog and your velocity, and you'll be able to plan better, but you're indirectly limiting your work in progress. In Kanban, you're directly limiting your work in progress. Both use transparency to drive process improvement, and both focus on delivering as early as possible and often as possible, and both are based on self-organizing teams. Both of them require us breaking work into pieces, and both are designed to optimize the release plan. What are the differences between Scrum and Kanban? Like I said earlier, in Scrum, the work in progress is limited indirectly. In Kanban, it is very direct. So Kanban will be much simpler in terms of when compared to Scrum. In Scrum, the estimation is prescribed. You have to be able to commit to what you're doing in each iteration. And if you're not able to, it goes into a backlog. But when you initially started, you have to know what you're going to get at the end of the sprint. In Kanban, estimation is optional. And again, the reasons why you can choose estimation to be optional, we've already called out earlier. Once a Scrum has started, you cannot add any more items to the iteration. Here is where the flexibility of Kanban comes in. You can add new items whenever capacity is available. The only thing you cannot touch is the work in progress limit, and at maximum you'll have 3. So the to-do list can be changed. And as soon as you finish the work in progress, you can take new items from the to-do list. And Kanban helps you, especially in products where you will have a lot of change requests coming in. And in products where you're not able to plan ahead of what you need to do for each iteration. Coming back to the next difference, Scrum calls for prescribed roles. There will be a Scrum Master, there has to be a PD, there has to be a QE, and everyone sticks to the rules. Kanban does not prescribe any roles, so you can collaborate as a team, decide what you have to do, what tasks you need to do, decide how you have to move it to in progress, and as a team you can do what's needed. A Scrum board resets each sprint. A Kanban board, as we saw, is persistent. In Scrum, we have a prioritized product backlog. We know what is coming for the next iteration. In Kanban, prioritization is optional. You can pick what you can do based on the capacity. Applying Kanban. So we're going to see actually in what sort of products or software elements we have to use Kanban. So we're going to look at the wrong reasons to apply Kanban and the right reasons to apply Kanban. What are the wrong reasons to apply Kanban? Let's say user stories are very diverse. You cannot split them into smaller tasks. You don't know what can be done within 2 weeks for given sprint. That is not why you have to. That's not the right reason for you to choose Kanban. They have failed iterations. You're not able to determine your velocity for each sprint, and you always have backlog. They failed retrospective meetings. We're not able to find what is wrong with what you've done, where people are working together, or just for simplicity, because as we know, Kanban is simpler than Scrum. These are not the right reasons to apply Kanban, but what are the right reasons? If you look into what are the right reasons to apply Kanban, yes, if you want to release your product at any time, ability to release at any time. A task starts at to do, it has to just go to release. It goes to the workflow and it's ready to release. You don't have to wait for your Scrum iteration to finish. You don't have to wait for your waterfall life cycle to finish before you can do this. Ability to change the priorities on fly. You're doing something that's, you have 2 tasks and work in progress. You can keep changing the priority of your to-do list as to what has to come next until they've moved into work in progress. There's no constraints about stopping it. In Scrum, once we get into iteration, and especially if we have longer iterations of 4 weeks, if there are any changes mid of the cycle, they're not encouraged, because you have to replan, you have to re-estimate, you have to do everything. You don't need iterations. You have a product where you're not able to split tasks further. It doesn't make sense to split a task, or when it's, especially when it's a new product where you have to have all the features in and you cannot split each feature to be separately released. You don't have to estimate, and we talked about the cases where we don't need an estimation. You have a perfect flow visualization. You know what happens from the start to the end. These are the reasons why we have to apply Kanban. Okay, so next section we're going to look into how a Kanban team will operate on a daily basis and how their Kanban board will look like, and I'm handing it over to Karpagam to walk you.
Hi everyone, this is Karpagam here. I'm going to take you through Kanban visualization. I hope everyone understands what is Kanban and where are the right places to apply Kanban and what are the wrong places to apply Kanban. But to understand the big picture, let me narrate a story to you so that you can understand the concept of Kanban in an easy manner. So one fine day a team chooses to adopt the Kanban for one of their projects. So the first step in Kanban is to set up their Kanban board to visualize their entire workflow. So before that, what we have to do is we have to come up with the different status for each of the tasks and what are the lower and the higher limit for work in progress in each of these states. So you can take this board as an example for this project. So here we have 6 states calling, let me call out the names: to do, in progress, code review, testing, QA completion, and released. So here the team comes up with 1 as the lower limit for to do and 6 as the upper limit for to do. What it means is at any point in time in the project, the minimum number of tasks that can be in this board is 2, and the maximum number that can be in this board for to-do list is 6. So this goes with other states as well. So let me proceed to the next slide. So here we are having 3 tasks in the to-do list. So as we already seen, the roles in Kanban are not prescribed. So anyone can take up the role of PM and they can come up with the to-do list. I mean, the task, they can define the task that can be placed in the to-do list. So we have 3 tasks now in the to-do list, and green it shows as PM, and yellow is the developers, and the orange one is the tester. So what happens is, once we come up with a list of things that have to be done for a particular time, see, these are the important things that have to be done now, then we have to understand the task end to end. Before taking up the task, we have to think about what are the other projects that are going to get affected by this, and we have to understand the task end to end, and then we have to move it to in progress. Once that is in progress, the developers can start working on that. So here when you see, 3 tasks are in progress now, and there are 2 tasks that are in to-do list. So even though we understand task 4 and task 5 in a better manner, we are not supposed to take it to in progress now, because we have set it 3 as the upper limit in progress. So the developers, they will start working on this task. Once they move these tasks to code review and then they have handed over it to QA for testing, they can pick up the task from the to-do list and they can start working on that. Okay, here comes the interesting part of this Kanban board. So here, what we can see this QA engineer coming and helping these developers for doing the code review. So as Anitya mentioned earlier, here we are not describing any predefined roles for people in the team. So what each team member can do is, whenever he finds bandwidth, he can pinch in and he can do whatever is feasible for him to do. So here the QA engineer pinch in and he is helping the development team to do code review. So once this is moved to testing, here we are having only 1 task in progress, and a QA is now kind of overloaded. He or she is having 3 tasks to be tested. So now the developer can take the role of a QA engineer, and he can help the QA engineer to move the tasks that are in the testing stage to QA completion. So this helps us to take up tasks that are important to do right now, and we are completing those tasks to completion before taking up other tasks that are in the to-do list. So this will enable us to visualize the product end to end before committing to the product. So these are the advantages of Kanban.
So if you look back at the Kanban board that we showed you, one other good use case is if there's too many tasks on just the testing or too many tasks on the to-do list, then you know that either the PM or the QA or whichever swim lane has a lot of tasks, that they're overloaded and they need help. So the whole team comes together collaboratively and see what we need to do to move this task to the next part of the workflow, and that is the beauty of Kanban. We wanted to conclude with a thank you slide saying that any process or methodology that is not destructive, applied with discipline and high-skilled people will definitely work. So, and likewise, any process, Kanban can also be customized. So these are the basic guidelines of Kanban, but you can customize it to suit your team, and please do try it out because it's a very powerful process. With this, we are
Thanks for
concluding
the
presentation.
Yes, thanks for the insightful presentation, Nitya and Karpagam. Let's quickly take up the questions now. I request you to read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to your insights. So you would be able to see the questions in your question doc. Are you able to see them?
Able to see the questions. Okay, the first question we have is, what is the team size in Kanban? So there is no hard fast rule, but like any Agile, it will work better with smaller teams. So anywhere between 3 to 6 members will work very well.
We have more questions coming in. Are you able to see them?
Yeah, we have it. Why do we have 1 as the minimum limit of the to-do list? So why we have 1 is we want to make sure in our sample Kanban board we had it as 1 because we want to make sure that at least we know what is happening next. We have the smallest insight, the minimum insight into what is coming up next. But you can also choose to have it as 0 if you know after this last feature there will be nothing left to do. Okay, there's a third question. The difference in roles in Kanban and Scrum. Okay, so to answer that question, Kanban also you can have roles similar to any product roles that we have, QE, PM, and PD. But in Kanban, it does not say that QE has to do only QE work. PM is the only person who will be in charge of the board, and Scrum Master is the only one who has to run Scrum meeting. So as a team, you respect your roles, but you can collaborate together and work at different roles if the need comes. So the roles will be the same, but you don't have to adhere to them as much as Scrum asks for it. That is different. So guys, we're waiting for more questions. Please post any questions that you may have.
Yes, so there are many questions in your doc. If you can just scroll up or down, you would be able to see questions in your question doc.
Oh, 1 second. Okay, so this is the next question. Can we get statistics from the Kanban board? Yes. So what are the statistics you can get is the average cycle time. It will be different from the Scrum statistics, but what we measure is usually the cycle time of when a task moves from the start to the end. Without estimation, how can we predict delivery dates? Yeah, that is a good question. So this depends on the product that you want to do. So estimation is optional. And when, like we called out, when estimation is optional is when the tasks are so well split that and the trust among the team is so well that we know that everything will not take more than 5 or 6 days and we can get it done. So that is what it is. If you have a product where you need to predict the delivery date upfront, then you have to opt for estimating. Other cases where we don't want to estimate is if you're running an experiment or a proof of concept which you're not able to estimate exactly, and it's okay for it to go when it's ready. Those are the cases where you have to go for estimation option. Do we have a Scrum Master? The next question is by Venkatesh Kandare. Do we have a Scrum Master concept in Kanban? No, we don't have a Scrum Master concept. All the roles, as we say, none of the roles are called out. So this team should be self-organized and run it. But if you want, you can have stand-ups to just talk about the progress of what is going on and how things are going. Otherwise, the board will be a very good indicator of what exactly is happening in your project. What can I see? Okay, there's another question that they've asked. What I can see is to implement Kanban, you need a team of highly skilled individuals so that they can take up any task. That is not true. What you need is highly focused and committed individuals, yes. And once they're committed to take it, they can also learn. So if you need people to learn, what you can split your task into is like a POC task or a learning task, and you can still do estimation. In that case, if you have estimation based on the skill of the individual, you can estimate it and take the board to the next level, to the next part of the workflow. So it mostly depends on the nature of the project and product, and if there's a product with a lot of changes and in an experimentation mode, Kanban will work very well. And as I said earlier, you can, Kanban does not, any agile methodology, they're not hard fast rules, so you can always customize it to what you want. The main, one great thing of Kanban is you have a great workflow and you don't have to go into splitting up tasks or planning for every iteration. So you can move into a mode where you can do things as they come, but also have the whole workflow in place to see what's happening, a whole visualization to see what's happening, and all of us going and tackling the column or the issue where the column where there's a lot of tasks pending to collaboratively improve the product. Okay, there's another question coming in. What would be the team size for this process? So again, we've already answered this, but I'll just quickly answer it again. So the team size would be optimal team size for Kanban would be any optimal agile team size. So anywhere between 3 to 6 members. If you're able to work together as a team with more members, you can also opt for that. Okay, the other question is, if there is more than 3 developers in the team, Can we increase the team size? Yes, you can. So the optimal size, as we said, for Agile teams is between 3 to 6. So smaller teams, Agile works better because you have to collaborate together. The bigger the team, it will be harder. But if you can make a bigger team work on it, you can make it work. Okay, we have one more question. Should business be involved in Kanban? It's not needed essentially, but there's nothing stopping that. So if you have a use case where a business person has to decide the to-do list, they can be involved. But in ordinary products, in most products, Kanban can run with a product manager itself. Okay, I'm taking the next question. In Scrum, for each iteration, we have more than one sprint, right? In Scrum, yes, for each iteration you can have more than one sprint. You can also call one sprint as one iteration. It depends on how you want to call the iteration of a product. And if you cannot complete the whole task within that given sprint, you can have a bigger duration of iteration. What factors determine the minimum and maximum limits of each bucket? So one factor is actually, to start with, you can see what is the number of engineers you have who can work on the to-do list, how many can be started in parallelly. That will be the first factor. And as we said, we can evolve experimentally to see after one cycle is over how we can increase the minimum and maximum limits. And minimum limit is something that Kanban doesn't enforce much. It is the maximum limit that you have to actually look into to make sure that we are at work in progress. If you cannot do multitasking, how can a resource be efficiently used across multiple products? That's a good question. So again, if you do multitasking, you get more done. But if you singly focus on any small task that doesn't have dependencies, and you get it completed, you can release that task as it is. And you don't have to wait for every other task to complete before. So you can see each task independently and get it done. And sequentially working helps us be more focused and actually that single task that you do will be more effectively done than multitasking. But the essential reason why we ask to limit the work in progress is so that we are not overloaded and you can release each task as they are finished. Multitasking can be done in sense of when you have more than one or two engineers, each of them can take multiple tasks. Each one can take one task each. And as you evolve your Kanban board, if you see that for 3 engineers, the work in progress limit 3, they become idle very soon. Then what you can do is you can increase the number of tasks per engineer to 2 and increase your work in progress limit. Can you please explain a live project example for Kanban? So where we use, I can tell you for what sort of project we're using Kanban for. So where we're using Kanban is we have an experimentation project that we're going to try out how things are going. And since the BU itself is experimenting with a lot of ideas, we get a lot of changes coming in. So whatever task comes in, we do it. But there will be a similar change on the same task coming soon. And we know that we're open to evolve, we're open to continuously do changes. So as the to-do list keeps on changing, we keep on taking what's there and moving it to release. And we also use this, even the smallest feature that comes in our product, like even changing a button name, we release it immediately to see what is the impact on the customer and don't wait for all the other bigger features to be completed before releasing one feature. Deciding the number of tasks, is it per user or common for the entire project? So I'm thinking that this question you're asking about the work in progress limit. If not, please rephrase your question. But deciding on the number of tasks, it depends on your project. It depends on it doesn't directly depend on the number of users, but indirectly it does depend on the number of users. And if your engineers are able to take more than one task at a time, then the number goes up. But it's not directly tied to the user. It is tied to the project. Okay, the next question is, will this process is recommended for support projects? Okay, that's a good question. For support projects, yes, you can use it if all support requests, will take only a particular time, and you don't have to estimate what is happening. And also the support requests will keep on changing. Then Kanban can be used, definitely. Okay, so the next question I have is, when the product is related to production and then the resources are working on enhancement, if priority is not defined, how do we handle the important requests that need to go to production in a predefined time? Okay, so again, this is about exceptions that come in the last minute. So the idea here is, when you limit the work in progress to 2 or 3, and there will be at least one task that will complete quickly and move to the next stage. So you will have the capacity to take up anything like this that comes. But worst case, in case of an exception, you can customize and actually deprioritize a task and take that up. Okay, the next question I have is, so there are no job titles such as QA or dev engineers because everybody has to help. Is that correct? Such as dev engineers have to help in QA. Okay, so what Kanban says is very mild. What it says is, respect the initial roles, but we do not enforce it. So if there are job titles, yes, you can be there. You can have it. You can have the PM take care of the to-do list. You can have the engineers work only on in-progress code review. And like we showed in the story, QA can come and help when engineers are having problem. Engineers can help QA when they don't have bandwidth. Everyone can collaborate together and work. So Kanban does not enforce job titles, but that does not mean there are no job titles. You can still respect your job titles and work on Kanban and see what sort of customization suits your product. Okay, the next question I have is, which type of task can we take as part of Kanban? Is it like deliverable or support related issues? Yes, so rather than tasks, I would ask you to look at as a whole product and which product you want to move into the Kanban. Support, definitely, if it has to be released, it has to be released as and when it's ready, you can take it. Deliverables also, if small deliverables have to be delivered independent of big deliverables, small changes have to go independent of a release cycle. It depends on your release cycle. If you want flexibility in the release cycle to release at any time, and then you can use Kanban. Okay, I have another question. What is the process to take the task out if it is taking longer time or need to put it on hold? Okay, so in that case, what you can do is you can have another swim lane saying in your Kanban board saying deferred, and if you've decided that the task is taking a lot of time and you want to kill it, you can move it to that deferred column. The next question I have is, do we have a product owner role in Kanban? Like I said, you can have that role. You can have your product owner take care of the to-do list, but Kanban does not enforce the role. It does not say that we definitely need a product owner. A developer can come up with an idea and put it in a task. But if you have a product owner, you can have them play that role. Okay, this is the other question, which is a good question. They ask in Scrum, at the end of iteration, we have retrospective meetings for reviewing, but in Kanban, how do we review? So in Kanban, what you can do is, it's very flexible, so you can decide to, as you see, let's say we are in, a lot of time happens in testing. We see all the people collaboratively going there and doing their best to resolve that issue in that lane to move to the next part of the workflow. So as you see the workflow board, you will see what is going wrong. It will call out visually, where a lot of time is being taken and what is going wrong. So then and there you can try to correct it. If not, after each release you can have a retrospective meeting, or when you feel that anything is going wrong, you can call for a retrospection and a review and keep on trying to improve. Okay, I have another question. I guess this suits product development and not rapid application development. Any thoughts? Actually, it does support rapid application development, especially in the cases where you want to release independently even the smallest tasks that come on and not tie it to a big release. So yes, you can do it. It depends again on the size of tasks you have and how skilled your engineers are to rapidly take it. Okay, I have another question. Why is Scrum more prevalent in the software industry over Kanban? That's a good question. Scrum has come relatively before Kanban. Kanban is a relatively newer concept, and Kanban is addressing, Kanban and Scrum are mutual, so Scrum will work very well for a lot of setups, and Kanban will work for another setup where there are a lot of changes coming in and where you have to work in experiment projects. So, and again, Scrum is is older than Kanban. Kanban is a new concept that has come to the manufacturing industry. That is the reason why Scrum is more prevalent. So nowadays Kanban is coming up and people are using it. Okay, I have a next question. What do you mean end-to-end in Kanban? Okay, what I meant by end-to-end is the whole Kanban workflow we have that starts from to do, where you get your task to released. That whole workflow, one task going through the whole workflow. That's what it means end-to-end.
We have another question. Let me read out the question first. Do you feel Kanban is right choice for the POS development? POS means point of sale. Yes, we can definitely try Kanban for POS kind of projects. The main advantage here is you will be able to visualize the entire workflow upfront, and you can come up with more important tasks that has to be done, and you can fail fast. So it will definitely suit for this kind of project.
Okay, the next question I have is, how will Kanban help when modules are independent of each other and different teams are handling the modules? So if you have different teams handling different modules, then you have to coordinate with those teams. What you can get into your Kanban board is your task with priority at this point, even though priority is optional, and with an estimation that matches the deliverable of the other team. So at this point you have to customize a bit.
Adding to that, we can share the same Kanban board across all the teams. That is one of the advantage of Kanban.
Yes.
In case of Scrum, the boards are particular to that sprint and particular. I mean, it is associated to that particular team. But in case of Kanban, we are visualizing the entire workflow in a single board, so it can be shared with across teams. So that will definitely help, because we'll be working together and we'll be tracking everything together.
Okay, thank you. The next question I have is, if there is more than 3 developers in the team, can we increase the in-progress size? Yes, you can. You can increase it to whatever size you feel is optimal. And if we don't get it right in the first cycle, definitely you can experiment and reach at the optimal size. Okay, the next question I have is, beginners should apply Kanban approach or Scrum approach. Which approach will be beneficial? So the approach that you select is not depending on whether you're a beginner or not. It depends on what your product requires. If you are working in a product in which you can plan ahead what needs to happen when, and you can work in iterations where you see an actual output at the end of every iteration and you can release at the end of every iteration, Scrum would suit. If you want to release independent of iterations and you have a project with a lot of changes coming in, then Kanban would help. Okay, I have another question. In Scrum methodology, normally we used to have daily 15 to minutes, 20 minutes Scrum meeting to discuss daily happening. How about in Kanban? Are we seeing any time saving compared to Scrum methodology? So Scrum enforces stand-up meetings to see what it is. In Kanban, it is not enforced, but if you still want, you can have stand-ups to track the status. If not, the Kanban board, if the team has disciplinedly moved everything to the proper status, the Kanban board will show the status of where the tasks are. And if you see a lot of tasks in progress for a couple of days, you'll know that something is wrong, and you can call for a meeting. So it depends on how disciplined your team is. If you're not changing the statuses properly to reflect on the board, then I would recommend a stand-up. Okay, I have another question. PM's role is minimal in Kanban compared to Scrum. So actually, that depends on your product and the task that comes in. PM's role, if you have a product with a PM, the PM's role can be the same. They can be in charge of the to-do list, but developers can help them. So let's say we're starting a Kanban board that has only the to-do list, and you have 3 tasks there which are not moving to in progress, and there's only one PM working on it. Then the team knows that they are blocked at the to-do list, so they can go and help the PM, give them the support they need to get the task to the next lane. But you can respect the roles as it is, or you can choose them to be optional. So that is the flexibility that Kanban gives. It is not a question of the role being minimal or not. Okay, I have a next question. What is the duration of a Kanban iteration? Kanban doesn't work in iteration. So what we call it is the cycle time. The time one task, the time a task takes from the to-do list to the released in the board that we are showing. So the duration actually depends upon the task, the nature of the task, whether it's a long. We showed one slide with long-running tasks and short-running tasks. So it depends on actually what time is to take each task, and depending on the mixture of tasks you can have, you can determine the average time. Okay, there's another question. Is there any method or process to decide the minimum work in progress? So there's no exact method, hard fast method, but as I said, one good method is depending on how many engineers you have, and if you feel that how many tasks one engineer can take at a particular time, that will be a good factor to start with. And then you can experimentally evolve after the next cycle, seeing what is happening. Kanban is not much depending on exact estimation like Scrum in terms of story points and putting estimation. Then how can we predict the project estimation? Okay, so I'm going to answer this question like it's not that it's not depending. You can choose for estimation to be optional. So it depends on your product. If you have to give an estimation and a release date, then you can actually have a task for estimation estimated, and say that okay, this is the time when the task will how much time the task will take to go from to do to release. And if you need to predict the project estimation, you need to, if you're working on very well-known tasks that they're very small tasks, and like support tasks that will take only this much time, and you don't have to give an actual prediction of when it will be released. Like if you're working on platform and you're not answerable to customers or business on a delivery date, then you can opt for optional estimation. Otherwise, you can estimate just in days or per task, what is the time for the task to happen from to do to the release time. Okay, I have another question. The roles are same, just their way to execute is different. Yes, we respect the roles. The roles can be the same. If where it makes a difference is if you're a platform team and you don't have a product owner and you decide what it is, then the engineers can play the role of who's managing the to-do list. So yes, the roles can be the same. The way to execute is different from Scrum, yes. The people in the roles can play the same role that they have. We can respect the roles, but Kanban does not enforce it. And if you have an opportunity for a tester to help a developer or developers to help the PM, with Kanban you can enforce, you can actually use that principle to evolve your team. Okay, I have another question. Does all Agile SDLC processes are applicable? Actually, I'm not clear on what that is. If you can provide more details on, are you asking can we apply all agile processes? You can choose different agile processes based on your product, and yes, there are more agile processes than Scrum and Kanban. There is extreme programming also, and lean, so you can decide which one you want to. But if you're not clear with my answer, please repost the question such that I can understand it better. Okay, I have another question. Okay, generally QA and dev teams are separate and specialized enough that it may not be practical to switch the role often, particularly for a small team. How practical and time efficient is Kanban? And given the work in progress is limited, who provides support for defects raised by QA? Okay, so for this, yes, generally the teams are separated and specialized. But what we saw is even in the example we have specialized roles, as in the PM being in green color and the tester being in orange and the developers being in yellow. So one concept here is for everyone is roles are respected. If needed, you can have specialized roles. If not, you can run without the role. That is what Kanban says. It says that, never says, don't have those specialized roles, don't have it. So we can have it. That's the first time. The second question they've asked is, it's not practical to switch the role often. Yes, definitely it's not practical to switch often. But if you see in the board, any one lane is taking a lot of time, then everyone can pitch in to see what's happening and what to help. And once in a while, a tester can help a bit in code reviews, and developers can help in testing. The intention here is to get the product released as early as possible. How practical and time efficient is Kanban? So again, it's been used in a lot of by a lot of people. So it is practical, but you have to be disciplined because there are not many constraints. So you have to have a team that is highly committed and focused in taking tasks from the to-do to released as early as possible. Okay, the other question is, given work in progress is limited, who provides support for defects raised by QA? Okay, one thing is we have two columns in the swim lane. One is testing and QA completion. So in testing phase, the bugs will be logged and they will be fixed. In QA completion state, it means all testing defects have been fixed. So you can differentiate that using a different column or swim lane. Okay, I have another question. Can we track the tasks that are moved out of the Kanban board on when and who moved them out? Yes, so once they are in release state, they are actually finished. So you can have them, keep them in the released column. If not, you can have another column that says finished, and you can have it there. Tracking who moved them out depends on what is the tracking tool you're using. If you have Jira, or if you're using Jira, it will give you, who the developer is, or you can create your own tool for tracking and associate the name of the person or the history of changes to get that information.
Sorry to interrupt, but due to time constraint, I have to request you both to take the unanswered questions offline, which I will share with you through email. So there are lots of questions that are coming in, literally pouring in. So you can take one last question now and then maybe sum up the session for today.
Sure, thank you. I will just take one last question. Okay, the question is, do we have any time limits for to-do, in progress, and code review, etc.? So Kanban does not enforce time limits. It just believes that you're disciplined enough to, and everyone is working together to make sure that you can get it as fast as possible. This is in an estimation optional mode. If you have an estimation mode, then you have to look into what you can do to meet the estimates. You have to manage that. So with that, we are done with the last question. We will answer the remaining questions over the email. Thank you so much, everyone.
So any closing lines from you, Nitya or Karpagam?
Yeah, so thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, and thank you for all of you showing your enthusiasm. I hope this was useful to everyone. So if you want, you can go to Google and read more about Kanban to understand more on the flexibility. But the story we played through was so that you can understand everything. And definitely we will answer your remaining questions. Thank you.
And I'm really thankful to our guest speakers today for conducting this wonderful webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Nitya. Thank you, Karpagam, for taking the time out and having us. I hope you have a great evening ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.